of Cinematic Arts.
Tonight, he is kind of a big deal. We are here with Thor himself. This is See You at USC, and we will see you in a second. Welcome back to See You at USC. I'm your host, Natasha Zubes, and tonight we're so lucky to be talking to Cody Deal. He is, of course, the star of the upcoming sci-fi feature, The Almighty Thor. Is that right?
That is right.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Okay, your pleasure. I like that. Is that a little sort of LA slang you picked up since you...
Kansas, LA.
Kansas,
I don't know
LA.
where it comes from. I say some really awesome stuff. So
yeah, all the time.
People have something to look forward to, let me tell you.
Yeah, we're excited. So tell me, how did you get involved with Almighty Thor?
Well, it was just like any other audition.
Yeah.
I hadn't landed really any big projects. I've been out here for 22 months, so I'm a very new face, and this was actually my first starring role that I ever starred in.
Yeah.
And went in, auditioned. They liked my look. They felt...
well, clearly, they looked at you and they were like, Thor.
Well, the director and the casting director were sold up front.
Yeah.
But the producers were not sold on my acting ability.
Really?
They just felt like they wanted to bring me back in for a second read, and they had me work with the casting director, Gerald Webb, to see if I was directable and coachable.
Wow.
And so I worked on that, the 11 pages of sides they gave me.
Yeah.
And I worked on it for 3.5 hours at the studio. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, they're not going to choose me, because it took me 3.5 hours to feel ready to put up that scene.
Yeah. It must have been a lot of pressure. I mean, when did you hear that they weren't confident that you were the absolute perfect
Afterwards.
pick? Okay,
Afterwards.
good.
But when I went in there, we put it on tape. Producers liked it. They gave us the go-ahead, and boom. And so I asked Gerald afterwards, because he also was my on-set dialogue coach for the film too. And I said, why did you guys choose me? It took me 3.5 hours to do one scene.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, Cody, most people would have came in. They would have said, yeah, I guess I'll work with your guy. Come in, work the scene for 20 minutes with him, and just put it on tape and leave.
Right.
He said, we knew that you were going to do everything necessary to be prepared for this film, and we didn't doubt you.
Got it.
I was like, wow, that's a good point.
Very good point. So how did it sort of go from there? What was the project like?
Well, the project was completely rushed. We shot a feature film in 12 days.
That is insane.
Yeah, the budget was around $500,000, so there's only so much you can do with that type of budget. You know, the Marvel Thor film had a $150 million budget.
Wow.
So they also had, I don't know how long their production was. Ours was 12 days.
Yeah.
And this company that does these films, the Asylum, does 10 to 15 films a year. So they shoot one film a month.
Yeah.
And just 12 days, shooting a feature film is almost nearly impossible.
That sounds insane.
The pressure is overwhelming,
Yeah.
especially for someone with their first film. I knew that it was a crash course into acting, the perfect thing that I needed, to knowing that if I could do this, any production that comes up, I can do.
Okay.
I had no doubt.
So were there any moments that you were like, I'm not sure if I'm cut out for this. This is really intense. This is a lot.
Sure, sure. There's a moment on day 3 where we kept trying to get this scene in. It was basically a scene where something devastating happens to Thor's family. And it's a most crucial moment in the film because it decides if the audience is going to root Thor on for the rest of the film. Are they going to root him on, or are they going to say, who cares?
Right.
And so we kept pushing the shot back because we just were running out of time. And then on day 3, we were going to push it back again, and they said, nope, finally, Cody, you got 15 minutes. We got 15 minutes of sunlight. We're going to just knock this shot out. We're going to have a close-up on you, close-up on Kevin Nash, and we're just going to do it.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, well, and so much pressure, you know, and I literally did the shot 2 times.
Wow.
2 times, and it came out phenomenal. And the producers, after that day 3, that's when I said, okay, we know Cody Deal's a guy for our film.
And we
This
made the
worked
right
out great.
choice.
Absolutely.
Got it.
So it's great.
So, I mean, usually, you know, with films, especially when there's supposed to be some sort of connection between characters, you have time to sort of workshop and get to know the other actors. I mean, it sounds like you guys didn't have that kind of time here.
Time, yeah, that's just a word that didn't exist.
Right.
You know, it was so difficult, but the pleasure was amazing. Just getting everything in so quickly. It was just everything was. I can't explain the experience. It was just overwhelming, and I absolutely loved the fighting, the action, the fantasy.
Yeah.
It was like a fresh kid from Kansas going into this film. My favorite film's Gladiator. I'm a superhero guy.
Right.
I auditioned for Marvel Store, actually,
Okay.
originally, that brought me out here from Las Vegas. I made a pit stop in Vegas for 18 months.
Wow.
And so that's, already auditioning for Thor. This felt like it was like made for me. Eric
Yeah.
Forsberg, who wrote the script, he didn't know me beforehand or anything like that. Again, I was just, my agent submitted me, we got in for a call, But I felt like that because Thor's story resonated so much with my own, Thor questions who he is, if he's really this god. And his family feels like he's not ready for the mantle of leadership, and and that his fate is destined to be something else than what he really is. And he feels that we can choose our own fate, and that's
Right.
a lot like me. I feel like that it doesn't matter your circumstances, your past environment, or where you come from.
Right.
You can achieve whatever you want to achieve as long as you put your mind to it and believe.
Got
and
it.
so Thor finally, in the end, embraces who he really is, and we get to kind of see an origin story, how the legend is born, how he comes to embrace who he is. So it's
Got it.
a really cool story, although it's low budget. You're going to see some stuff that's very epic looking. Then you're going to see some stuff like, wow, that is pretty darn low budget.
But I mean, I saw a lot of the, screenshots and stuff with you and your like armor and your like spears and stuff. That looks like, I mean, every guy's sort of dream.
It really was. I can just sum it up by it was an awesome freaking experience.
Yeah. So I want to know, I mean, where is it that you actually come from? You talk about it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter how humble your beginnings are. You can achieve whatever you want. So what are your beginnings?
Well, I come from a small town in Kansas, in southeast Kansas, about 1,100 people.
Okay.
I graduated as 28.
Yes.
So
and you were a high school football star.
And basketball.
And and basketball. I'm sorry, I don't mean to shaft another sport. Okay. Okay.
And that's what my passion was sports. And I went to college to play dual sports in college. And I was a farm boy. I worked on a ranch every single summer of my life up till I was 12 to my senior year in high school. And that's how I made my money, But when you come from that type of environment, you just feel like Hollywood's a fantasy land. You don't feel like it's believable for you. And that's why I moved to Vegas first and said, hey, I want to get into modeling. I just knew my goals were a lot bigger than Kansas.
When do you think you knew that? At what point?
When I fractured my arm, I have a scar here and here. I fractured both.
I see that. Wow.
Yeah, both.
Wow.
It's pretty stellar.
That's some pretty hardcore looking stuff there.
When that stuff happened, I just...
How old were you?
18.
Okay.
18, 19, 18. Yeah, it was my freshman year. And I just started gauging things. I spent 2 years in college playing sports, and I just decided, is this what I want to do? Is there something inside that something else I want to pursue? I can always go back to sports.
Right.
So I moved to Vegas, and I got into modeling first because I knew I just didn't think I could act. I thought if you didn't know how to draw or write, draw or paint, that you wouldn't be good as an actor. Again, my naivete speaking, they have no correlation whatsoever, but that's where I was coming from.
Okay.
And so I got into the modeling, and through that, I got on, started working at Caesar's Palace as a Roman soldier on the weekends. I dressed up as a Roman soldier.
You were one of those.
Yeah, this was
Okay.
my first acting gig, though.
Oh my goodness.
So
you have all these like drunk girls coming up to take photos with you and all of that.
Yes.
And at that point, did you think maybe I could do something more? Or
Well, I got on sets like The Hangover,
Yeah.
and The View, and The Today Show, and I dressed up as a Roman soldier, and I basically was a model in motion.
Yeah.
I didn't act; I just stood there.
But there's some acting involved in being a Roman soldier.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. But from that, it got me on professional sets, and I was like, you know what, this is fun for me. And then I started taking acting classes in December of '09.
Okay.
And a few months after that's when I auditioned for Marvel Store. And then 4 months after that, I moved to LA.
I can imagine that taking acting classes, especially thinking, I can't act, must have been a little bit scary.
Yeah, I just felt like when I did background work. I suggest any beginning actor, anybody who wants to see if they even like this, to do background work.
Where were you? Background?
For The Hangover
Right.
and Get 'Em to the Greek as well.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so I got to see Bradley Cooper work,
Yeah.
and I just was like, man, he's good, but I was like, I could learn how to do this.
Yeah.
And then I watched Jonah Hill. I was in like this very small room, probably no bigger than our studio here.
Yeah.
And him and the director worked together for about 3 hours on one scene.
Wow.
It was a phone scene where he was talking on the phone, and to P. Diddy or Sean Combs, whatever he goes by nowadays.
Whatever.
But he and it was so cool to see the directability that he would take from the director and everything like that. And I just saw that, and it was so powerful for me because a guy coming from Kansas, there's just things you don't know about a professional set that you just wouldn't know unless you got on one.
Yeah.
So that was just a great experience.
That's a really good point. It almost is like a backstage sort of pass to the whole process.
Yes, you don't get paid a lot, but it's worth the experience.
Yeah. Now, you actually did do theater in high school as well, though, right?
No.
No? No, not at all?
No, I convinced the drama instructor because athletes couldn't do plays.
That sounds like a Glee sort of situation, or like High School Musical. The athletes can't be in school plays.
True, because
what is this?
High school football and basketball practice are after school.
So demanding.
No, are after school, and play rehearsal practice after school. So they conflicted the rehearsals.
Yeah.
So I convinced the drama instructor to do the 6:30, 7 a.m. Rehearsals in the morning before school, and I landed the lead role of the play, and I convinced her. But the problem was I ended up skipping on the practices because sports.
What play was it?
Oh my God, I can't even remember.
The role that you lost.
I remember my role. I played Superintendent Brooks.
That
was my role. But I lost the lead, and it's just my priority were sports, Yeah. And but that was my first experience on stage, if you will.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So when is the drop date for this sci-fi film?
The drop date is May 7th.
Okay.
This Saturday, May 7th.
Okay, that's very exciting.
It's very exciting. Syfy is very excited about this film. I've kind of just started taking a grassroots movement to getting the film out there.
Yeah,
this
tell
is
me
my
about
first
that.
starring role. Well, basically, because of film was so low budgeted, The Asylum, the production company behind it, and Syfy weren't able to put any advertising dollars into it because there's just nothing there. And so we've realized through getting on all, CNN and Fox and all these interviews that I've done for some of the bigger networks, we've noticed that people are latching on not only to Almighty Thor, and because it's Thor, it's a low-budget film, and people want to watch Thor, but we've realized that they're also latching on to the small Midwestern, small-town boy story.
Yeah.
There's things also that have happened in the 22 months that I've lived here that seem people to be latching on to coming from where I came from, and then landing the starring role in that Syfy Original Movie. It's kind of stellar to a lot of people who know about it.
It is. It's fantastic. It's very cool. Okay, so are you going to be, watching it with your family, or what's going to happen?
Actually, I will be tweeting on Twitter. Syfy's asked me to do a live tweet.
Okay,
session.
What is your hashtag and all of that stuff?
It's at Cody Deal, CODYDEAL, but also I'll be tweeting under the hashtag Almighty Thor.
Okay.
So if people are watching it and they're going, hey, your movie sucks, I'll say, awesome, thanks for watching.
But you're still watching.
Exactly. If people say, gosh, you're so good looking, wow,
I'll be like,
thanks. Those types of things.
Okay.
So, and I'll interact with anybody.
Sounds great.
So
okay.
That's what we're doing today.
We have to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about Path and also where we're going to see you next. We will see you after the break.